On Kravos, humans are scorned, but Kael, an earth warrior, stands tall in a blood-drenched arena, his chiseled frame glistening with sweat. Princess Seraphine, her white hair flowing, her alluring curves hugged by fur, gazes at him with smoldering eyes. Queen Veyra, seductive and commanding, leans closer, her full lips hinting at forbidden promises. A deadly tournament to claim their hearts, but as desire ignites between the three, will Kael conquer both or be consumed by the fire of their passion? The stars burned like scattered embers across the velvet void, but on the jagged surface of Kravos, they felt impossibly distant. Kael's boots crunched against the crimson gravel, each step echoing in the thin, metallic air of the alien world. His breath fogged the visor of his battered helmet, a relic from Earth's last war. He was no hero, not by his own reckoning. Just a man who'd survived too many battles to believe in glory. Yet here he was, standing at the gates of the grand arena, a towering coliseum of obsidian and bone, about to fight for something no human had ever dared, the hand of an alien princess. "Move, human," barked the Kravosian guard, his scales glinting like polished steel under the twin moons. Kael didn't flinch. He'd faced worse than a 7-foot lizard with a bad attitude. Still, the guard's spear nudged his back, urging him through the arched gateway into a roar of alien voices. Thousands of Kravosians filled the stands, their eyes glowing like molten gold, their hisses and cheers blending into a primal cacophony. To them, humans were vermin, weak, soft-skinned, unworthy. Kael was here to prove them wrong. 30 seconds ago, he'd been nobody. A stranded pilot, captured after his scout ship crashed in Kravos' wastelands. Now, he was the main event. The Kravosians loved their ancient tradition, the trial of the blade, a brutal gauntlet of combat where warriors fought to claim the hand of Princess Seraphine, the Empire's radiant jewel. Her intellect was legendary, her beauty unmatched, and her heart locked tighter than a neutron star. No one had won the trial in a century. And no human had ever been foolish enough to try. Until now. Kael's pulse thrummed as he stepped into the arena's center, the ground stained with the blood of countless warriors. Above, on a floating dais draped in shimmering furs, sat Princess Seraphine. Her hair, white as starlight, cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face both delicate and fierce. Her skin glowed pale, almost translucent, and her pointed, elf-like ears twitched slightly as she leaned forward, studying him. Her eyes, sharp and emerald, held no warmth, only curiosity, like a scientist examining a specimen. Beside her, on a throne of carved crystal, sat Queen Veyra, her mother. The queen's presence was a storm, commanding and unyielding. Her own white hair was braided with obsidian beads, and her fur-clad figure radiated power. She'd sworn never to remarry after her husband's death, but her gaze lingered on Kael, heavy with something he couldn't name. "Human." The announcer's voice boomed, silencing the crowd. "You dare enter the trial of the blade? Speak your name and purpose." Kael unclipped his helmet, letting it fall to the ground. His dark hair was matted with sweat, his jaw set with defiance. "I'm Kael of Earth," he said, voice steady despite the weight of 10,000 alien stares. "I'm here to win the trial. To prove humanity's worth. And to claim Princess Seraphine's hand." A ripple of laughter swept through the crowd, sharp and mocking. Seraphine's lips twitched, not quite a smile. Veyra's expression didn't change, but her fingers tightened on the armrests of her throne. Kael caught the movement. "Interesting." The announcer, a wiry Kravosian with a crest of red spines, sneered. "A human? In our trial? You'll be dust before the first round ends." "Then let's get started," Kael shot back, earning a fresh wave of jeers. He didn't care. He'd learned long ago that words meant nothing in a fight. Only action mattered. The first trial was simple: survive. 3 Kravosian war beasts, each the size of a tank, were unleashed from iron gates across the arena. Their claws gleamed like daggers, their roars shaking the ground. Kael had no weapons, part of the trial's cruelty. But he had his wits, his training, and a stubborn refusal to die. The first beast charged, its 6 legs pounding the earth. Kael dove, rolling beneath its snapping jaws, and grabbed a jagged rock from the ground. As the creature turned, he hurled the rock with precision, striking its left eye. It howled, rearing back, and Kael seized the moment, sprinting to a pile of debris, shattered armor from fallen warriors. He pried a broken spearhead free, its edge still sharp. The crowd's laughter faded as the second beast lunged. Kael sidestepped, driving the spearhead into its flank. Blood sprayed, dark and viscous, and the beast collapsed. Seraphine leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Veyra's fingers drummed lightly on her throne, a faint spark of interest in her gaze. Kael didn't see it. He was too busy dodging the third beast's tail, which whipped through the air like a steel cable. He leaped, grabbing the tail mid-swing, and used its momentum to vault onto the creature's back. With a grunt, he plunged the spearhead into its spine. The beast buckled, and Kael hit the ground running, ready for whatever came next. The crowd was silent now, stunned. A human had survived the first round. Impossible. Enough. The announcer's voice cracked with disbelief. The human advances. Kael wiped blood from his face, none of it his own, and looked up at the dais. Seraphine's expression was unreadable, but her eyes hadn't left him. Veyra, though, tilted her head, a ghost of a smile playing on her lips. For a moment, their gazes locked, and Kael felt a jolt, like a current running through him. Not fear. Not adrenaline. Something else. The next trial would be harder. Kael knew it. The Kravosians didn't just want blood, they wanted a spectacle. And he was going to give them one. As the gates rumbled open again, revealing a new challenge, Kael's mind raced. The trial wasn't just about survival. It was about proving humanity's strength, cunning, and heart. He'd come here by accident, a prisoner turned gladiator, but now? Now he had a purpose. Seraphine's hand was the prize, but something told him the Queen's attention was a far more dangerous reward. The second trial began with a hiss of steam as a mechanical monstrosity emerged, a Kravosian war droid, its limbs bristling with blades. Kael tightened his grip on the spearhead, his heart pounding. This wasn't just a fight. It was a performance. And he was playing to an audience of two. Seraphine's voice cut through the silence, sharp and clear. "Impress me, human," she said, her tone laced with challenge. "Or die trying." Kael grinned, a reckless spark in his eyes. Challenge accepted. The droid lunged, and Kael moved, his body a blur of instinct and training. Sparks flew as metal clashed against stone, the crowd roaring back to life. He ducked under a whirling blade, sliding across the ground to snatch a discarded shield. It was cracked, barely holding together, but it was enough. He blocked a blow that would have cleaved him in half, the impact jarring his bones. The droid was relentless, its programming flawless, but Kael was human. He was unpredictable. He feinted left, then rolled right, luring the droid into overextending. With a shout, he drove the spearhead into a gap in its armor, severing a hydraulic line. Fluid sprayed, and the droid staggered. Kael didn't hesitate. He climbed its frame, wrenching at exposed circuits until the machine collapsed in a shower of sparks. Panting, he stood over the wreckage, his chest heaving. The crowd erupted, no longer mocking but awestruck. Seraphine's lips parted slightly, her composure slipping. Veyra's smile widened, her eyes gleaming with something that made Kael's pulse race faster than a fight ever could. "You're full of surprises, human," Veyra said, her voice low, carrying across the arena like a caress. "But the trial is far from over." Kael met her gaze, his defiance unshaken. "Good," he said. "I'm just getting started." As the arena gates groaned open for the next challenge, Kael felt the weight of their stares, Seraphine's curiosity, Veyra's intrigue. He wasn't just fighting for survival anymore. He was fighting for something bigger. Something impossible. And he'd be damned if he let either of them down. The gates shuddered wider, revealing a labyrinth of shifting shadows and illusions that danced like ghosts in the arena's dim light. Kael's muscles tensed, his body still humming from the rush of the previous fights, sweat tracing rivulets down his skin beneath his torn flight suit. He could feel the heat of the crowd's anticipation, but more than that, he sensed the intensity of those two pairs of emerald eyes boring into him from the dais. Seraphine's gaze was a puzzle, sharp and probing, as if she were dissecting his every move with her renowned intellect. Veyra's was different, deeper, like a slow-burning fire that promised both warmth and danger. He shook off the distraction, focusing on the challenge ahead, but a part of him thrilled at the thought that they were watching, waiting to see if he'd break or bend. This trial wasn't brute force, it was cunning, a maze woven from holographic traps and psychic whispers designed to unravel the mind. The Kravosians called it the Veil of Deception, where warriors face their deepest fears manifested as tangible threats. Kael stepped forward, the ground beneath him rippling like water, and suddenly the arena transformed. Walls of shimmering energy rose around him, twisting paths that led into darkness, and faint murmurs echoed in his ears, voices from his past, ghosts of fallen comrades on Earth, whispering doubts. "You're nothing," they hissed. "A fragile human in a universe of gods." He clenched his fists, pushing forward. The air grew thicker, charged with an electric hum that made his skin tingle. As he navigated the first turn, a figure materialized before him, a spectral image of Seraphine, her white hair flowing like silk, her fur-clad form hugging curves that seemed almost too perfect, too inviting. The illusion stepped closer, her elf-like ears twitching, her pale skin glowing faintly in the holographic light. "Why fight for me, human?" she purred, her voice a velvet caress that sent a shiver down his spine. "You could surrender now, and I'd make it worth your while." Kael's breath caught. The hologram was flawless, capturing the subtle sway of her hips, the way her eyes sparkled with mock invitation. It was erotic in its deception, designed to lure and distract. He reached out instinctively, his fingers brushing through the air where her cheeks should be, feeling only a faint warmth from the projection. "Not real," he muttered, forcing himself to turn away. But the illusion persisted, circling him, her laughter soft and teasing. "Am I not tempting enough? Or do you prefer my mother?" The words hit like a spark, igniting something primal in him. He pressed on, the maze tightening, walls closing in with illusions of Veyra now joining the fray. She appeared regal and commanding, her braided hair adorned with obsidian, her body draped in furs that accentuated her powerful yet feminine form. "You've caught my eye, Kael," the Phantom Queen whispered, her voice husky, laced with an undercurrent of desire. "A human with such fire. Imagine what we could share if you yielded." His pulse quickened, the air heavy with an artificial scent like wildflowers mixed with spice that made his head swim. The illusions drew closer, their holographic touches ghosting over his arms, his chest, sending jolts of simulated pleasure through him. It was suspenseful torment, the maze forcing him to confront not just fears, but desires he hadn't admitted. Seraphine's image leaned in, her lips nearly brushing his ear. "Touch me, and the trial ends. Pleasure without pain." Kael growled, shaking his head to clear the fog. This was the veil's cruelty, not death, but seduction into submission. He spotted a faint glow at the paths and a control node pulsing with energy. Dodging the illusion's grasping hands, he sprinted, his boots pounding the illusory ground. The figures multiplied, Seraphine and Veyra clones weaving around him, their voices blending in a symphony of temptation. "Stay with us," they cooed. "Let go." With a roar, he lunged at the node, smashing his fist into it. Sparks flew, and the maze shattered, illusions dissolving into wisps of light. The arena reappeared, the crowd gasping in unison. Kael dropped to one knee, breathing hard, his body flushed from the ordeal. The erotic haze lingered in his mind, making him acutely aware of his own arousal, the way his suit clung to his sweat-slicked skin. From the dais, Seraphine rose slightly, her cheeks tinted with a faint blush, real this time, not holographic. Her intellect might have anticipated the trial's tricks, but seeing Kael emerge victorious, disheveled and defiant, stirred something in her. Veyra's eyes darkened, her fingers tracing the edge of her throne, a subtle gesture that spoke volumes. The queen, who had long denied herself companionship, felt a forbidden pull toward this human warrior. "Well done," the announcer stammered, the crowd's murmurs turning to reluctant applause. The human advances to the trial of flames. Kael stood, locking eyes with Seraphine first. Her gaze held a new heat, curious and appraising, as if the illusion had planted seeds of real intrigue. Then Veyra, whose smile was enigmatic, promising secrets yet to unfold. He nodded to them, a silent vow, before turning to the new gates opening with a hiss of steam. The trial of flames was literal, a ring of fire that encircled a platform, where Kael had to battle a Kravosian champion while avoiding the encroaching blaze. The champion, a hulking warrior named Drak, towered over him, scales armored and eyes blazing with contempt. "You'll burn, pest," Drak snarled, wielding a flaming whip. The fight ignited instantly. Drak lashed out, the whip cracking like thunder, flames licking at Kael's heels. He dodged, the heat singeing his hair, and countered with a scavenged blade from the arena floor. Their clashes echoed, metal on scale, sparks flying in the inferno. Suspense built with each near miss, the fire creeping closer, forcing them into tighter quarters. As they grappled, Kael's mind flashed to the illusions, the way Seraphine's holographic form had moved with graceful allure, Veyra's with commanding sensuality. It fueled him, turning exhaustion into determination. He feinted, drawing Drak in, then swept his leg, sending the champion stumbling toward the flames. Drak recovered, roaring, and charged again, his body a wall of muscle and heat. The crowd chanted, the flames roaring higher, but Kael's focus sharpened. He parried a blow, feeling the whip wrap around his arm, burning through fabric to skin. Pain flared, but he used it, yanking Drak off balance and driving his blade into a chink in the scales. Drak bellowed, collapsing as the fire claimed the edges of the platform. Victorious again, Kael extinguished the whip on his boot, his arm throbbing but his spirit unbroken. The flames died down, revealing him standing tall, chest heaving, muscles glistening under the arena lights. Seraphine's breath quickened from afar, she bit her lip, her intellectual facade cracking under the raw display of human resilience. Veyra leaned forward, her fur slipping slightly to reveal more of her pale shoulder, a deliberate or accidental tease that sent a ripple through Kael. The announcer's voice trembled. "Incredible, the human endures. Prepare for the trial of shadows. No rest, no reprieve." The trials were relentless, designed to break even the strongest. Shadows slithered from the walls, coalescing into dark tendrils that lashed out like living entities. Kael moved through them, his body a symphony of evasion and strike, the darkness whispering temptations anew. This time, the shadows took forms inspired by his thoughts, Seraphine emerging from the gloom, her body barely concealed by swirling mist, inviting him with outstretched hands. "Join me in the dark," she murmured, her voice echoing erotically. He resisted, slashing at the tendrils, but the contact sent waves of sensation, pleasure mixed with pain that made his knees weaken. Veyra's shadow appeared next, her form curvaceous and commanding, pressing against him in the void. "Feel my power, Kael. Surrender to it." The suspense was palpable, the crowd hushed as Kael fought not just the shadows, but his own burgeoning desires. He found the core a pulsating orb of darkness and shattered it with a desperate thrust. Light flooded back, leaving him gasping, his body aroused and aching from the psychic onslaught. As he emerged, the dais seemed closer, or perhaps it was his imagination. Seraphine's eyes met his, filled with a mix of admiration and longing, her elf-like ears flushed pink. Veyra's gaze was bolder, tracing his form with undisguised interest, her vow of solitude cracking under the weight of this human's allure. The trials were far from over, but with each victory, the bond grew suspenseful, erotic, unbreakable. Kael wiped sweat from his brow, ready for whatever came next, knowing their eyes would guide him through the fire. The arena pulsed with raw energy, the air thick with the scent of scorched earth and the faint, lingering spice of the psychic shadows that had just dissolved. Kael stood amidst the fading tendrils, his chest heaving, his skin prickling from the ghostly touches of Seraphine and Veyra's illusory forms. Their whispers still echoed in his mind, teasing and provocative, but he pushed them aside, his gaze lifting to the dais where the real Seraphine and Veyra watched, Seraphine's emerald eyes sparkled with a mix of awe and something deeper, her pale cheeks flushed as she leaned forward, her fur cloak slipping just enough to hint at the curve of her collarbone. Veyra's stare was bolder, her lips curved in a way that made Kael's blood run hotter than the flames he'd just escaped. The connection between them felt alive, a thread pulling tighter with every trial, and he sensed the weight of their expectations driving him forward. The announcer's voice cut through the charged silence, trembling yet amplified by the arena's acoustics. The human persists. Now, face the trial of the Abyss, a challenge no warrior has survived in 100 cycles. The crowd erupted, their roars a mix of disbelief and hunger for spectacle. Kael's heart thudded as the ground beneath him split open, revealing a chasm that seemed to swallow light itself. The Abyss was no mere pit, it was a portal to a microdimension within Kravos, a place where gravity twisted and reality warped. From its depths, a low hum rose, vibrating through his bones, followed by the glint of something massive emerging, a biomechanical leviathan, its body a fusion of organic tendrils and gleaming metal, its eyes glowing with malevolent intelligence. This was the climax of the trials, a test designed to break even the strongest, and Kael felt the weight of it like a physical blow. He had no time to think. The leviathan lunged, its tendrils lashing out like whips, each tipped with barbs that shimmered with venom. Kael dove, rolling across the trembling ground, his scavenged blade flashing as he severed a tendril that came too close. The creature screamed, a sound that clawed at his mind, and the arena seemed to tilt, gravity shifting to pull him toward the abyss's edge. The crowd gasped, sensing blood, but Kael's instincts kicked in. He planted his feet, using the shifting gravity to propel himself upward, landing on a floating platform that materialized from the chasm's energy. The platform swayed, unstable, and the leviathan struck again, its metal jaws snapping inches from his legs. Kael's blade met its hide, sparks flying, but the creature was relentless, its movements a blur of organic and mechanical fury. Every strike was a dance with death, thrilling in its intensity, as Kael wove through the onslaught, his body pushed to its limits. The crowd was on edge, their cheers turning to gasps as he narrowly avoided a barb that grazed his shoulder, drawing a thin line of blood. Pain flared, but it sharpened his focus, his every move fueled by the need to survive not just for himself, but for the eyes watching him from above. Seraphine's hands gripped the edge of her seat, her intellect warring with an unfamiliar rush of emotion. She'd calculated the odds of any warrior surviving the abyss, near zero. Yet Kael moved with a grace and ferocity that defied logic, his human unpredictability a variable she couldn't quantify. Beside her, Veyra's breath hitched, her regal composure fraying as she watched Kael defy the impossible. The queen's fingers brushed the fur at her throat, a subconscious gesture, her body reacting to the raw power of the man below. The arena was a stage, and Kael was rewriting the script. Then came the surprise, a twist that sent a ripple of shock through the crowd. The leviathan's form flickered, revealing it wasn't one creature but a swarm of smaller entities, bound together by psychic energy. Each segment broke free, scattering like a flock of razor-winged birds, surrounding Kael in a storm of claws and teeth. The drama escalated, the air crackling with tension as he spun, slashing at the swarm, his blade a blur. One segment latched onto his arm, its venom burning through his veins, and for a moment, he staggered, vision blurring. No. Seraphine's voice broke free, a rare crack in her poised exterior, startling even herself. The crowd fell silent, stunned by the princess's outburst. Veyra's eyes widened, her hand reaching toward her daughter, but her gaze never left Kael. The human was faltering, and the abyss was merciless. Kael gritted his teeth, the venom searing like fire in his blood. But he was no stranger to pain. He'd survived Earth's wars, the loss of his squad, the crash that stranded him here. He wouldn't fall now. With a primal roar, he drove his blade into the platform's core, where a faint glow pulsed the swarm's psychic anchor. The impact sent a shockwave through the abyss, the creatures shrieking as their cohesion unraveled. They collapsed into a writhing mass, then dissolved into the chasm, leaving only echoes of their screams. Kael fell to his knees, gasping, the venom still coursing through him but his will unbroken. The platform stabilized, gravity normalizing, and the abyss sealed itself, the arena returning to its original form. The crowd exploded, their cheers deafening, a mix of awe and disbelief. A human had survived the abyss. It was unthinkable. Seraphine stood, her fur cloak falling slightly, revealing more of her lithe form, her white hair catching the arena's light like a halo. Her eyes locked on Kael, no longer just curious but burning with something new: admiration, desire, perhaps both. Veyra rose beside her, her own fur slipping to expose the elegant curve of her neck, her expression a mix of pride and something dangerously close to longing. The queen, who had locked her heart away, felt it stir, drawn to the human who defied every expectation. The announcer's voice was hoarse, almost reverent. The human has conquered the abyss. Prepare for the trial of bonds. Kael struggled to his feet, the venom's burn fading but leaving him shaky. He looked up, meeting Seraphine's gaze first. Her outburst lingered in his mind, a crack in her intellectual armor that made her seem more human than alien. Then Veyra, whose subtle shift in posture, her fur parting just enough to tease, sent a jolt through him, thrilling and confusing. The trial of bonds sounded different, less about blades and more about something deeper. His gut told him it would test not just his strength, but his heart. As the arena shifted, the ground rising to form a circular chamber bathed in soft, golden light, Kael felt the atmosphere change. The crowd's roars softened, replaced by a hush of anticipation. This trial wasn't about bloodshed, it was about connection, trust, and truths laid bare. The chamber's walls pulsed with energy, and faint images flickered, memories, emotions, drawn from the minds of those within. Kael's pulse quickened, sensing the stakes were higher than ever. Seraphine and Veyra descended from the dais, their movements graceful yet deliberate, their fur-clad forms catching every eye in the arena. The crowd murmured, curious, as the two women stepped into the chamber, their presence amplifying the trial's weight. Kael realized with a start that this trial involved them directly, not as spectators, but as participants. The realization was both thrilling and terrifying, a dramatic shift that promised to unravel secrets and forge bonds he couldn't yet fathom. The chamber sealed, enclosing them in a cocoon of light, the outside world fading. Seraphine's voice, softer now, broke the silence. This trial tests more than strength, Kael, she said, her tone laced with challenge and intrigue. It tests truth. Are you ready to bare your soul? Veyra stepped closer, her scent wildflowers and spice filling the air, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that made his knees weak. And are you ready to face ours? She added, her voice a low, seductive murmur that promised revelations as dangerous as any leviathan. Kael swallowed, his heart racing, the drama of the moment overwhelming yet exhilarating. The trial of bonds was no mere fight, it was a collision of hearts, and he was about to discover just how deep this connection could go. Kael felt the chamber's golden light wrap around him like a living entity, warm and insistent, as if it could peel away layers of armor he didn't even know he wore. Seraphine's words hung in the air, her voice a blend of intellectual curiosity and a vulnerability that made her seem less like a distant princess and more like someone reaching out in the dark. Veyra's addition carried the weight of her years as queen, her tone both commanding and inviting, stirring a mix of anticipation and nerves in him. He nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat, his voice steady despite the whirlwind inside. I've faced beasts and shadows. Truth can't be worse than that, right? The chamber responded to his words, the walls shimmering as ethereal tendrils of light extended, connecting the three of them in a delicate web. It was like being plugged into a shared dream, memories and emotions flickering at the edges of his consciousness. Drama built instantly, the air thickening with unspoken secrets, and Kael realized this trial was the true heart of the arena, not physical prowess, but the raw exposure of souls. The crowd outside watched through holographic projections, their murmurs a distant hum, heightening the intimacy of the moment. Seraphine stepped closer first, her white hair catching the light, her elf-like ears twitching with a mix of excitement and apprehension. The tendrils linked her mind to his, and suddenly, Kael was flooded with glimpses of her life, endless studies in vast libraries, her intellect a shield against the loneliness of royalty, the pressure to be perfect in a world that saw her as a symbol rather than a person. But beneath it, a surprising curiosity about humans whispers she'd heard of their passion, their unpredictability. "I've always wondered," she admitted aloud, her voice echoing in a chamber in his mind, "what makes your kind so resilient, so alive?" Kael blinked, caught off guard by the intimacy, feeling her thoughts brush his like a gentle breeze. He tried to respond, but the link worked both ways, and his own memories surfaced unbidden, the crash landing on Kravos, the isolation of space travel, the loss of his family back on Earth. It was awkward, this sudden vulnerability, like stripping naked in front of strangers who were anything but. He chuckled nervously, rubbing the back of his neck. "Well, if resilience means crashing ships and fighting aliens for fun, then yeah, that's us humans. Though I didn't exactly plan on bearing my soul today, thought it'd be more swords and less therapy." Seraphine laughed, a light, melodic sound that cut through the tension, her cheeks flushing pinker. It was a rare glimpse of humor from her, and it eased the drama just a touch, making the moment feel less like a trial and more like a conversation. But Veyra's presence loomed, her tendril linking next, and the atmosphere shifted to something heavier, more charged. Her memories poured in, the weight of ruling Kravos after her husband's death in battle, the vow she'd taken to never love again, to protect her heart and her empire. Yet, threaded through it was a growing fascination with Kael, sparked from the moment he stepped into the arena, his defiance, his humanity stirring embers she'd long thought cold. The Queen's eyes met his, intense and unwavering, and Kael felt a surge of her emotions, admiration mixed with a forbidden desire that made his pulse race. "You've shattered my expectations, human," she said, her voice low and resonant, heightening the drama as the chamber amplified every nuance. "But truth demands reciprocity. Show us your heart, Kael. What do you truly seek here?" He hesitated, the awkwardness peaking as his thoughts betrayed him. Flashes of attraction to Seraphine's sharp mind and graceful form, to Veyra's commanding presence and hidden softness surfaced, unfiltered. The women sensed it, Seraphine's eyes widening in surprise, Veyra's lips curving into a knowing smile. Kael's face heated, and he tried to play it off with humor. "Great, now you're both in my head. If you find any embarrassing childhood memories, like the time I tried to fly off a roof with homemade wings, just ignore them. Humans aren't built for subtlety, apparently." The quip landed, drawing a soft chuckle from Veyra, her regal facade cracking just enough to reveal a warmth that made her seem approachable. Seraphine, however, tilted her head, her intellectual curiosity piqued in a way that turned the moment curiously awkward. "Fly with wings? But humans don't have avian traits. Was this a cultural ritual?" Her genuine confusion, paired with a lingering echo of his attraction in the link, created a humorous mismatch, like explaining a bad joke to an alien who literally was one. Kael grinned, the drama easing into a lighter territory. "Nah, just a dumb kid thinking he was a superhero. Ended up with a broken arm and a lesson in gravity. Point is, we humans leap before we look, it's how we survive. Or crash spectacularly." The chamber seemed to approve, the tendrils glowing brighter, weaving tighter as truths deepened. But the drama heightened when a shared vision emerged, projected for all to see, a hypothetical future where Kael stood between them, not as a conqueror, but as a bridge, his hand extended to both. It was intimate, almost prophetic, stirring emotions that made the air hum with tension. Seraphine glanced at her mother, a flicker of jealousy crossing her features, awkward in its rawness, as if the trial had stripped away her composure. "Mother, you've felt this way? About a human?" Veyra's response was measured, but the link betrayed her inner turmoil, a storm of duty versus desire. "The vow was for protection, Seraphine. But this human, he reminds me of what I've denied myself." The admission hung heavy, dramatic in its honesty, and Kael shifted uncomfortably, caught in the crossfire of their familial dynamic. It was like being the unintended center of a royal soap opera, and he couldn't help injecting humor to defuse it. "Whoa, ladies, if this is turning into a family therapy session, I might need a timeout. I'm just a guy who crashed here, didn't he sign up for emotional diplomacy?" His words elicited smiles, the awkward tension breaking like a wave, but the underlying drama persisted, building toward revelations that could change everything. The chamber responded by delving deeper, pulling forth a memory from Kael's past, a lost love on Earth, a fellow pilot who died in a skirmish, leaving him guarded against attachments. Sharing it felt exposing, vulnerable, but Seraphine's empathy flowed through the link, her hand reaching out to touch his arm, a real, physical connection that sent sparks racing across his skin. "You've carried that pain alone," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "But here, you don't have to." Veyra nodded, her own hand brushing his other arm, the gesture maternal yet charged, heightening the intimacy. The awkwardness returned when the link amplified their mutual attractions, creating a feedback loop of desires that made Kael's breath hitch. He cracked a joke to steady himself. "If this trial keeps going, I might need a cold shower." Humans aren't wired for mind melds without complications. The humor lightened the mood, but the drama crested as the chamber challenged them further, manifesting illusions of their fears, Seraphine isolated in her intellect, Veyra alone on her throne, Kael adrift in space. Confronting them together forged a bond, surprising in its strength, as they supported each other through the visions. Seraphine's fear dissolved when Kael's resolve bolstered her, Veyra's when Seraphine's compassion reminded her of family. Kael's own fear faded in their combined warmth, the trio emerging closer, the web of light pulsing in approval. As the chamber's glow dimmed slightly, signaling the trial's progression, Kael felt a shift, the drama not resolving but evolving, awkward moments giving way to tentative understanding. Seraphine leaned in, her lips brushing his cheek in a spontaneous gesture that left him flustered. "Thank you, Kael, for showing us your truth." Veyra followed, her kiss on his other cheek more deliberate, lingering just enough to stir the air with possibility. "And for awakening ours." The crowd's distant cheers filtered in, but Kael barely heard them, his mind reeling from the intensity. The trial of bonds was transforming them, heightening every emotion, every awkward exchange into something profound. Yet, as the chamber prepared for its final phase, he couldn't shake the curious thrill of what came next. Would it bind them forever, or reveal a fracture too deep to mend? The light intensified again, drawing them into a deeper merge, where thoughts blended seamlessly. Drama peaked as hidden truths surfaced, Seraphine's secret longing for adventure beyond her books, Veyra's quiet regret over her vow, Kael's unspoken hope for a new home. Awkward humor arose when a stray thought from Kael comparing Kravosian fur cloaks to Earth's fuzzy blankets slipped through, earning baffled looks. "What are fuzzy blankets?" Seraphine asked, tilting her head. Kael laughed. "Soft things we wrap up in on cold nights. Kinda like your furs, but less regal. And no, we don't hunt them." Veyra smirked, the queen's poise returning with a playful edge. "Perhaps we could introduce such customs. After all, you've survived our trials, maybe it's time for yours to invade ours." The banter eased the tension, but the underlying drama remained, building to a crescendo as the chamber judged their bonds worthy. The web of light solidified, a symbol of unity, and the trio stepped out, the arena erupting in awe. Kael walked between them, his hands brushing theirs, the awkwardness of the revelations giving way to a surprising comfort. Yet, as the announcer declared the next phase, the trial of unity, Kael sensed the stakes rising higher, the drama promising more twists, more awkward depths to explore. With Seraphine and Veyra at his sides, he felt ready, a human bridging worlds in ways he never imagined. The arena's energy shifted palpably as the trial of unity began, the ground beneath Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra glowing with a soft, ethereal luminescence that drew them into a secluded enclave within the Colosseum. The crowd's cheers faded to a respectful hush, as if the ancient rites demanded reverence for what was to come. Kael felt the brush of their hands against his, Seraphine's fingers light and exploratory, Veyra's firm and guiding, sending subtle sparks through his skin. The drama of the previous trials lingered, but now it evolved into something more profound, a test not of individual strength but of harmonious connection. As the enclave sealed around them, forming a private sanctuary bathed in warm, pulsing light, Kael sensed this would delve into the most intimate realms of trust and unity, binding them in ways that transcended words. Seraphine turned to him first, her emerald eyes reflecting the glow, her white hair cascading like a veil of moonlight. The bond from the previous trial still hummed between them, amplifying every glance, every touch. The trial of unity requires us to merge not just minds, but essences, she explained, her voice a blend of scholarly precision and budding eagerness. It's a ritual of complete surrender, where barriers fall and souls entwine. Veyra nodded, her presence commanding yet softened by the sanctuary's aura, her fur cloak draping elegantly over her form. In our culture, it's the ultimate affirmation of alliance. For you, human, it will be enlightening. Her tone carried a hint of invitation, stirring the air with anticipation. Kael's heart raced, the implications dawning on him. This wasn't mere conversation, it was a prelude to a deeper communion. He stepped closer, drawn by the magnetic pull, his hand gently cupping Seraphine's cheek. Her skin was smooth, warm, like silk warmed by the sun, and she leaned into his touch, her elf-like ears quivering slightly. The light around them intensified, encouraging the connection, and Kael felt a surge of emotion, admiration for her intellect, desire for her grace. Then let's unite, he murmured, his voice husky with resolve. Their lips met in a tentative kiss, soft at first, exploring the unfamiliar territory of cross-species affection. Seraphine's response was curious, her hands tracing the contours of his shoulders, discovering the firmness of human muscle. The kiss deepened, passion building like a slow-burning flame, her body pressing against his with a natural urgency. Kael's arms encircled her waist, pulling her closer, feeling the curve of her hips through the fur, the rhythm of her breath syncing with his. It was a dance of discovery, each movement heightening the intimacy, their shared breaths mingling in the sanctuary's warm air. Veyra watched for a moment, her eyes darkening with a mix of maternal protectiveness and her own awakening desires. The trial demanded balance, and she joined them seamlessly, her hand sliding along Kael's back, sending shivers down his spine. Unity involves us all, she whispered, her voice a low caress that resonated through him. Kael turned slightly, his lips finding Veyra's in a kiss that was bolder, more intense, reflecting her regal fire. Her mouth was inviting, tasting of exotic spices, and she responded with a fervor that surprised him, her fingers weaving into his hair, pulling him deeper. The three of them moved in harmony, the sanctuary's light pulsing in time with their escalating connection. Seraphine trailed kisses along Kael's neck, her touch light and teasing, while Veyra's hands explored his chest, feeling the beat of his heart. Kael reciprocated, his fingers brushing the soft fur of their cloaks, gently parting them to reveal more of their pale, luminous skin. The sensations were overwhelming yet exquisite, the contrast of Seraphine's youthful eagerness and Veyra's experienced confidence creating a symphony of touch and emotion. As cloaks fell away, the air grew charged with their shared warmth, bodies entwining in a tender embrace. Kael marveled at their forms, graceful and alluring, the subtle differences in their alien physiology adding to the wonder. Seraphine's curves were lithe, inviting exploration, while Veyra's were fuller, exuding a powerful sensuality. They guided him, their hands and lips mapping uncharted paths, evoking waves of pleasure that built gradually, like a tide rising under the moons. In this sacred space, time seemed to stretch, allowing them to savor each moment. Kael lay back on a cushion of light-formed bedding, Seraphine straddling him with a playful smile, her hair falling around them like a curtain. She moved with instinctive rhythm, their bodies joining in a gentle union that sent ripples of ecstasy through both. Veyra knelt beside them, her touches enhancing the experience, her lips claiming Kael's in passionate kisses that amplified the bliss. The trial wove their essences together, heightening every sensation, the brush of skin on skin, the shared gasps of delight, the building crescendo of mutual fulfillment. It was more than physical, it was a fusion of spirits, where Kael's human vitality complemented their alien grace, creating a bond that felt eternal. Seraphine arched in response to his movements, her voice a soft melody of contentment, while Veyra's deeper tones added harmony, their collective energy peaking in waves of shared release. As the intensity subsided, they collapsed in a tangle of limbs, breaths mingling, bodies glistening with a glow of satisfaction. The sanctuary's light softened, affirming their unity, but the connection lingered, a warm afterglow that promised more. Kael held them close, one arm around each, feeling the steady rhythm of their hearts. That was, beyond anything I've known, he admitted, his voice laced with awe. Seraphine nestled against him, her head on his chest. For us too. Your passion, it's invigorating. Veyra traced patterns on his arm, her expression content yet thoughtful. The trial has bound us, but the true test is what comes after. The enclave began to open, the crowd's distant applause filtering in, but the trio lingered, savoring the intimacy. Kael kissed each forehead, the gesture tender, sealing the moment. As they dressed, the drama of the trials felt complete, yet he knew this unity was just the beginning, a foundation for whatever challenges lay ahead. Emerging from the sanctuary, the arena erupted in cheers, the Kravosians witnessing the birth of an unprecedented alliance. Seraphine and Veyra flanked him, their hands intertwined with his, their forms radiating a newfound glow. The announcer's voice boomed, the trial of unity is fulfilled. The human has proven worthy. But as confetti of light rained down, Kael caught a subtle glance between Seraphine and Veyra, a silent communication that hinted at deeper layers. The passion they shared had unlocked not just bodies, but secrets, and he wondered what revelations awaited in the aftermath. The celebration commenced, with feasts and honors, but in quiet moments, their touches lingered, evoking memories of the sanctuary's warmth. That night, in the royal chambers, they reunited under the twin moons, the intimacy reigniting with gentle urgency. Seraphine initiated, her curiosity leading to exploratory caresses, while Veyra guided with confident strokes, their bodies entwining once more in a ballet of affection. Kael surrendered to the flow, his hands roaming with reverence, eliciting soft sighs and murmurs of delight. The experience was profound, a blend of tenderness and fervor that strengthened their bond. Each movement, each connection, built upon the last, culminating in shared peaks of ecstasy that left them breathless and entwined. In the quiet after, conversations flowed, Seraphine sharing dreams of exploration, Veyra confiding in her hopes for peace. Kael listened, his human perspective offering fresh insights, the unity trial evolving into a lasting partnership. As dawn broke, they stood on the balcony, overlooking Kravos' crimson landscapes, bodies close, spirits aligned. The passion had forged them into something unbreakable, ready to face the universe together. Yet, whispers of external threats lingered, rumors of invading forces that could test their new alliance. Kael felt prepared, the intimacy granting him strength beyond measure. With Seraphine and Veyra by his side, he embraced the future, their union a beacon of hope. The story of the warrior's trial had transformed into a legend of love and unity, where a human's heart conquered not just challenges, but the stars themselves. The dawn light painted Kravos' crimson cliffs in hues of fire, casting a warm glow over Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra as they stood on the royal balcony, their silhouettes intertwined against the alien sky. The intimacy of the night lingered in their shared glances, the memory of their entwined bodies and whispered dreams binding them closer than any trial could. Seraphine's hand rested lightly in Kael's, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his palm, while Veyra's arm brushed his shoulder, her presence a steady anchor. The air was calm, but beneath the tranquility, a current of unease rippled, whispers of distant threats, of invaders lurking beyond Kravos' orbit. Yet, in that moment, their unity felt invincible, a beacon forged in passion and trust that could withstand any storm. The palace stirred to life below, servants gliding through crystal corridors, preparing for the day's festivities to honor Kael's victories. The crowd's adoration had shifted from shock to reverence, and the trio's bond was already the stuff of Kravosian legend. But as they turned to re-enter the chambers, a sharp hum pierced the air, like a blade slicing through silk. The balcony's edge shimmered, and a holographic projection materialized, a Kravosian elder, his scales dulled with age, his eyes wide with urgency. "Your Majesties, Champion Kael," the elder's voice crackled, a dire warning. "The Shadow Fleet approaches an armada from the void world X-Aurel, intent on conquest. They've breached our outer defenses." Veyra's posture stiffened, her regal fire returning as she stepped forward. "How long until they reach Kravos?" "Hours, my queen," the elder replied, his projection flickering. "Their leader demands surrender or annihilation." Seraphine's grip tightened on Kael's hand, her intellect racing. "X-Aurel's technology surpasses ours. Their stealth drives evade detection. We need a strategy, now. Kael's mind churned, the weight of their unity tested so soon after its forging. He'd faced impossible odds before, but this was no arena trial, this was war. Then we fight, he said, his voice steady, though his heart pounded with the stakes. Together. The scene shifted swiftly, the palace transforming into a war room as advisors and generals gathered. Maps of Kravos' orbit glowed in the air, red markers tracing the shadow fleet's approach. Veyra took command, her voice cutting through the chaos, while Seraphine analyzed data, her fingers dancing over holographic interfaces. Kael, though out of his element, offered insights from Earth's guerrilla tactics, suggesting unpredictable strikes to counter Zekro's stealth. The trio's synergy was palpable, their bond fueling a seamless collaboration that inspired the room. But the powerful twist came without warning, shattering the fragile hope. As Seraphine accessed a captured Zekron transmission, the chamber's lights dimmed, and a new projection emerged, a figure cloaked in darkness, its voice a chilling rasp that seemed to seep into their bones. Kael of Earth, it intoned, you are not what you seem. The trials were no accident. You were chosen by us. The room froze, every eye turning to Kael. Seraphine's breath caught, her analytical mind grappling with the revelation. Veyra's gaze narrowed, her hand instinctively reaching for his, seeking truth in his touch. Kael's own mind reeled, the words slicing through his confidence like a blade. What the hell are you talking about? He demanded, stepping toward the projection, his voice raw with defiance. The figure's cloak parted slightly, revealing a face that was neither human nor Kravosian, but something ancient, its eyes like twin voids. Your crash on Kravos was orchestrated. A beacon, planted in your ship by Zekron agents, led you here. The trials were our design to test you not for Kravos, but for us. You are the key to our dominion. The twist landed like a thunderbolt, stunning the listener with its audacity. Kael, a pawn in a cosmic game? The idea was unthinkable, yet fragments of memory flickered, glitches in his ship's navigation, the improbability of surviving the crash. His heart sank as he realized the truth, his arrival on Kravos wasn't fate, but manipulation. The crowd outside, unaware, chanted his name, but in the war room, silence reigned, the drama peaking as trust wavered. Seraphine broke the silence, her voice trembling but resolute. Is this true, Kael? Were you sent to deceive us? Her eyes searched his, torn between betrayal and the bond they'd forged, her elf-like ears twitching with tension. Veyra's grip on his hand tightened, her expression unreadable but fierce. Speak, human. Our unity depends on your truth. Kael's throat tightened, the weight of their stares crushing. He shook his head, his voice raw. I swear, I didn't know. I'm no one's puppet. I crashed, I fought, he paused, meeting their eyes, the intimacy of their shared night fueling his resolve. I chose you. Both of you. Whatever they planned, I'm here for Kravos, for us. The Zekron figure laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Deny it, but your blood carries our mark, a nonite signature, embedded when you were born. You are our creation, designed to bridge worlds, to open Kravos to us. The revelation was a gut punch, a surprise that twisted everything Kael thought he knew. His hand went to his chest, as if he could feel the alien tech coursing through him. Seraphine's fingers flew to her console, scanning him with a portable device. Her eyes widened as data confirmed the nonite's microscopic, dormant, but undeniably present. It's true, she whispered, her voice cracking. But they're inactive. You're not their puppet, yet. Veyra stepped between Kael and the projection, her fur cloak swirling like a storm. If Zekroth thinks they can claim him, they'll face Kravos' wrath. He's ours. Her words were a declaration, possessive and fierce, reigniting the passion of their unity. Seraphine nodded, her intellect aligning with her heart, and she joined her mother, standing shoulder to shoulder with Kael. The figure's projection flickered, its tone mocking. Defy us, and Kravos burns. Activate the nonites, Kael, or watch your lovers perish. The threat hung heavy, the drama cresting as Kael faced an impossible choice: betray the women he'd grown to love or risk their world's destruction. But his human stubbornness flared, a spark of defiance that surprised even himself. "You want me? Come and get me," he growled, smashing the console projecting the figure, its image shattering into sparks. The war room erupted into action, advisors scrambling to prepare defenses, but the twist had shifted everything. Kael turned to Seraphine and Veyra, his voice low but firm. "I don't know what I am, but I know who I'm fighting for. Help me stop them." Seraphine's hand found his, her touch grounding him. "We'll find a way to neutralize the nanites. My labs can do it." Veyra's fingers brushed his cheek, her gaze fierce yet tender. "You've faced our trials. You'll face this. We'll face it together." The urgency of the moment propelled them out of the war room, toward Seraphine's laboratory, the palace's corridors alive with the clatter of armor and the hum of technology. The Shadow Fleet was closing in, their stealth ships now visible as faint blips on Kravos' scanners. Kael felt the nanites' presence like a shadow in his veins, but the warmth of Seraphine and Veyra's trust burned brighter. As they reached the lab, Seraphine began her work, her hands steady despite the stakes, scanning Kael's biology while Veyra coordinated with her generals. The twist deepened, a hidden signal from the nanites was broadcasting Kravos' defenses to the Zekron fleet, making every second critical. Kael gritted his teeth, enduring the scans, his mind racing with the surreal truth of his origins. Yet, amidst the chaos, their bond held firm. Seraphine paused to squeeze his hand, her eyes promising answers. Veyra, between barked orders, stole a glance that spoke of unwavering faith. The surprise of Kael's manipulated existence had shaken them, but their unity forged in trials, passion, and trust was unshakable. As the lab's machines hummed, detecting a way to disable the nanites, the first Zekron ships breached Kravos' atmosphere, their shadows darkening the sky. The battle was coming, and Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra stood ready, their connection a weapon against the invaders. The twist had changed the game, but it also revealed the strength of their bond, a force no Zekron could have predicted. The laboratory hummed with frenetic energy, its crystalline walls reflecting the crimson glow of Kravos' skies now streaked with the ominous shadows of Zekron ships descending like vultures. Kael stood in the center of the chaos, his bare torso exposed under the sterile light of Seraphine's scanning array, the faint hum of her machines probing the alien nanites in his blood. Her fingers danced across holographic controls, her white hair tied back, her elf-like ears twitching with focus as she worked to neutralize the Zekron signal betraying their defenses. Veyra, ever the queen, stood at a command console, her voice sharp as she issued orders to Kravos' fleet, her fur cloak slipping slightly to reveal the tense set of her shoulders. Their unity, forged through trials and passion, held them together, but the weight of the Zekron revelation pressed against them, a storm threatening to crack their bond. Kael clenched his fists, the sensation of the nanites like a faint itch beneath his skin, a constant reminder of the twist that had upended his sense of self. He caught Seraphine's glance, her emerald eyes flickering with determination but also a trace of fear, not for the invasion, but for him. "We're close," she said, her voice steady despite the stakes. "The nanites are dormant, but their signal is active. I can disrupt it, but it'll take time." "Time we don't have," Veyra interjected, her gaze flicking to a holographic map where red blips marked Zekron ships breaching the atmosphere. "Their vanguard is already landing. We need you free, Kael, or Kravos falls." The drama escalated, the air thick with urgency as alarms blared, signaling the first skirmishes on Kravos' surface. Kael's heart pounded, torn between his role as their champion and the horrifying possibility that he was Zekron's unwitting weapon. "Then let's make it quick," he said, forcing a grin to lighten the tension. "Unless you want me to invite the Zekron for tea and biscuits, human specialty, terrible for invasions." Seraphine's lips twitched, a spark of humor breaking her focus. "Tea and biscuits? Is this another of your fuzzy blanket customs?" Her confusion, paired with the absurdity of the moment, drew a chuckle from Kael, easing the strain. But Veyra's sharp glance held less amusement, her eyes searching his, as if weighing whether his humor masked betrayal. The awkwardness hit like a rogue asteroid. The lab's scanners beeped, revealing a surge in the nanites' activity, triggered by the Zekron ship's proximity. Kael winced, a sharp pain lancing through his temple, and a faint voice not his own whispered in his mind, "Activate. Serve us." He staggered, clutching the scanner's edge, and Seraphine rushed to his side, her hand steadying him, her touch grounding. "Kael, stay with us," she urged, her voice trembling with emotion. "You're stronger than their tech." Veyra joined them, her hand on his shoulder, her fingers firm yet warm through his skin. "Fight it, human. You've faced our trials, this is just another." Her tone was commanding, but the way her thumb brushed his collarbone spoke of trust and something deeper, reigniting memories of their shared night. The intimacy clashed with the pain, creating an awkward dance of vulnerability and strength. "Okay, ladies, if I'm gonna fight alien brain hackers, I need less poking and more, I don't know, motivational speeches." Kael quipped, his voice strained but defiant, hoping to defuse the tension. Seraphine's eyes sparkled with a mix of exasperation and affection. "Motivational? Should I lecture you on quantum mechanics to inspire you?" Her retort, delivered with a playful smirk, cut through the drama, but the moment was fleeting. A sudden explosion rocked the palace, the lab's walls shuddering as Zekron forces breached the outer defenses. The holographic map flared, showing enemy troops advancing toward the capital. Veyra's composure cracked, her voice rising as she barked orders to redirect Kravosian fighters. "They are targeting the palace to capture Kael. We must protect him." The drama heightened, the room a whirlwind of action and emotion. Seraphine's scanner pinged, isolating the nanite signal's frequency, but the process required Kael to remain still, a near impossible task as pain pulsed through him. He gritted his teeth, focusing on their faces, Seraphine's fierce determination, Veyra's unyielding resolve to anchor himself. But the awkwardness surged when the scanner's psychic interface, linked to their bond from the trial of unity, projected a shared memory, their night together, vivid and intimate, flashing across the lab's screens for all to see. Kael's face burned as images of their entwined bodies, soft gasps, and tender touches played out, the lab's technicians averting their eyes in embarrassed silence. Seraphine froze, her cheeks flushing as pink as Kravos' dawn, while Veyra coughed, her regal poise faltering. "Well," Kael muttered, forcing a laugh, "guess the whole planet knows I'm a decent kisser now. Sorry, didn't mean to broadcast our team-building exercise." Seraphine recovered first, her laughter shaky but genuine. "Your human humor is, oddly timed, but effective." Veyra's lips curved, her eyes softening despite the chaos. "Bold, even in disgrace, Kael. It suits you." The humor dissolved the awkwardness, but the drama roared back as the nanites surged again, the Zekron voice louder, "Obey, or they die." Kael doubled over, clutching his head, and Seraphine's hands flew to the controls, her voice urgent. "I've got it. Hold on." She activated a pulse, sending a shockwave through Kael's system, temporarily silencing the nanites. He gasped, relief flooding him, but the victory was short-lived. The lab's doors burst open, and a squad of Zekron infiltrators stormed in, their forms cloaked in shimmering darkness, wielding weapons that hummed with lethal energy. The drama peaked, the room erupting into chaos as Kravosian guards engaged, blades clashing with energy blasts. Kael, still reeling, grabbed a fallen guard's spear, his instincts kicking in. "Stay behind me," he shouted to Seraphine and Veyra, who, to his surprise, ignored him. Seraphine, wielding a handheld disruptor, fired precise shots, her intellect translating to battlefield precision. Veyra, regal and fierce, drew a ceremonial blade from her cloak, moving with lethal grace. The sight of them fighting alongside him was thrilling, their unity a weapon against the invaders. Kael parried a Zekron's strike, the spear vibrating in his hands, and countered with a thrust that sent the enemy sprawling. Together, the trio held the line, their movements synchronized, a testament to their bond. Amid the fight, an awkward moment struck when a Zekron taunted Kael, its voice echoing the projections. "You're ours, human. Why fight for them?" Kael, dodging a blast, shot back, because they've got better company and honestly, your interior decorators suck. The quip, absurd in the heat of battle, drew a startled laugh from Seraphine, even as she blasted another foe. The battle raged, the lava maelstrom of sparks and blood, but their teamwork prevailed, the last Zekron falling to Veyra's blade. Panting, they stood amidst the wreckage, Kael's arm around Seraphine's waist, Veyra's hand on his shoulder. The Nonites were silent for now, but the fleet loomed closer, and the palace trembled under distant explosions. Seraphine's scanner beeped, signaling a breakthrough. I can disable the Nonites permanently, but it'll hurt. A lot. Kael met her gaze, then Veyra's, drawing strength from their trust. Do it. I'm not letting Zekron win. As Seraphine prepared the procedure, Veyra leaned close, her breath warm against his ear. You're more than their creation, Kael. You're ours. Her words, laced with fierce affection, steadied him, even as the scanner hummed ominously. The procedure began, pain searing through Kael like lightning, but their hands Seraphine's gentle, Veyra's firm kept him grounded. The drama was unrelenting, the outcome uncertain, but their bond held fast. As the Nonites deactivated, Kael's vision blurred, their faces the last thing he saw before darkness claimed him. Outside, the battle for Kravos intensified, the trio's unity the only hope against the Zekron onslaught. The awkward revelations, the humor and chaos, had forged them into something unbreakable, ready to face the final stand together. Darkness enveloped Kael, a heavy void that pulsed with the fading sting of the Nonites' deactivation, but the warmth of Seraphine's and Veyra's hands anchored him, their touch a lifeline through the pain. As consciousness flickered back, he felt the laboratory's sterile air, now tinged with the acrid scent of scorched circuits and blood from the Zekron skirmish. His eyes fluttered open to find Seraphine's face hovering close, her emerald eyes wide with relief, her white hair disheveled but glowing under the lab's dim light. Veyra stood beside her, her regal poise softened by concern, her fur cloak slightly askew, revealing the curve of her shoulder. The palace trembled under the distant booms of the Zekron invasion, but in that moment, their bond felt like the only unshakable thing in the universe. You're back, Seraphine whispered, her voice thick with emotion, her fingers brushing his cheek. The Nonites are offline. You're free. Veyra's hand tightened on his shoulder, her gaze fierce yet tender. You fought their control, Kael. Now we fight their fleet together. Her words carried the weight of a queen, but the warmth in her touch spoke of something deeper, a promise forged in the trials and their shared intimacy. Kael sat up, wincing as pain lingered in his muscles, but his resolve burned brighter than ever. Then let's finish this, he said, his voice hoarse but determined. He met their eyes, feeling the strength of their unity, a force that had defied beasts, shadows, and now alien manipulation. The lab's holographic map flickered, showing Zekron ships swarming Kravos' skies, their stealth drives no longer hidden thanks to Seraphine's countermeasures. The battle was here, and the trio was its heart. The palace corridors blurred as they moved, Kael flanked by Seraphine and Veyra, their steps synchronized despite the chaos. Kravosian soldiers rallied around them, inspired by the legend of the human who'd conquered the trials and won the hearts of their queen and princess. Outside, the crimson landscape was a battlefield, the twin moons casting eerie light on Zekron landers deploying sleek, insect-like war machines. Kael gripped a plasma rifle handed to him by a guard, its weight familiar from Earth's wars, while Seraphine carried her disruptor, her intellect now a weapon of precision. Veyra wielded her ceremonial blade, its edge gleaming with deadly intent, her presence a beacon for her people. The final stand began at the capital's edge, where Kravosian defenses clashed with Zekron invaders. The air crackled with energy blasts, the ground shaking as war machines advanced. Kael led a strike team, his human unpredictability confounding the Zekron's calculated tactics. He ducked under a machine's claw, firing into its core, sparks flying as it collapsed. Seraphine flanked him, her disruptor disabling enemy shields with pinpoint accuracy, while Veyra carved through Zekron drones, her blade a whirlwind of regal fury. Their coordination was seamless, their bond a silent language that guided every move. Amid the chaos, a Zekron commander emerged, its cloaked form towering over the battlefield, its void-like eyes locking onto Kael. "You cannot escape your purpose," it rasped, its voice echoing the projection from the war room. "You were made to serve us." Kael's jaw clenched, his rifle trained on the creature. "I choose my own purpose," he shot back, firing a burst that forced the commander to retreat behind a shield. Seraphine hacked into its systems, her fingers flying over a portable console, while Veyra charged, her blade slicing through the shield's edge. Together, they drove the commander back, their unity a weapon no X-Aurel could counter. The tide turned as Kravosian reinforcements arrived, inspired by the trio's defiance. Seraphine's countermeasures crippled the X-Aurel stealth drives, exposing their ships to Kravos's orbital cannons. Explosions lit the sky, X-Aurel vessels plummeting like falling stars. Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra fought as one, their bond a rallying cry that echoed across the battlefield. The X-Aurel commander fell under their combined assault, its final words a fading hiss, "You cannot stop the void." But they did. As the last X-Aurel ship retreated, the battlefield grew quiet, the crimson dust settling under the moon's glow. Kael stood panting, his rifle lowered, Seraphine and Veyra at his sides. The Kravosians cheered, their voices a triumphant roar, but Kael's focus was on the women beside him. Seraphine's hand found his, her touch gentle, her smile radiant. "We did it," she said, her voice a mix of exhaustion and joy. Veyra's arm slipped around his waist, her eyes gleaming with pride. "You've given us more than victory, Kael. You've given us hope." The palace became a place of celebration, the halls filled with music and light as Kravos honored its saviors. Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra stood at the center of it all, their bond now a symbol of unity across worlds. In a quiet moment, they retreated to the balcony where their journey had deepened, the twin moons casting their light once more. Seraphine leaned against Kael, her head on his shoulder, her white hair mingling with his dark strands. "I thought humans were reckless," she murmured, her tone teasing. "But you've taught me they are also extraordinary." Veyra, standing close, traced a finger along Kael's jaw, her touch reigniting the warmth of their shared nights. "And you've reminded me that even a queen can choose her heart," she said, her voice soft but resolute. Kael pulled them closer, his arms encircling both, feeling their warmth against him. "I came here by accident," he said, his voice low, "but I'm staying by choice. For you. For us." The ceremony that followed was unlike any Kravos had seen. In the grand arena, now a place of peace, Kael stood before the crowd, Seraphine and Veyra at his sides. The Kravosian elders declared their union official, a marriage not just of hearts but of worlds, binding human and Kravosian in a new era. Seraphine's kiss was tender, filled with promise, while Veyra's was fierce, sealing their bond with passion. The crowd roared, confetti of light raining down, a testament to their victory and love. As months passed, Kael became more than a champion, he became a bridge, sharing Earth's resilience and ingenuity with Kravos. Seraphine's labs flourished, blending human and Kravosian technology, while Veyra's rule grew stronger, her heart opened to new possibilities. Their nights were filled with laughter, love, and shared dreams, their bond a constant reminder that even the impossible could be conquered. Under Kravos's moons, they built a life together, a family forged in trials and triumphs. The X-Aurel threat faded into memory, their defeat a story told across the stars. Kael, once a stranded pilot, was now a legend, his name whispered alongside Seraphine's and Veyra's as saviors of Kravos. As they stood on their balcony one final time, watching a new dawn break, Kael felt a peace he'd never known. Seraphine nestled closer, her voice a whisper. "You've changed everything, Kael." Veyra's hand found his, her smile radiant. "And we'll change the stars together." The universe stretched before them, vast and full of promise, but in their embrace, Kael found his home. The warriors' trial had ended, but their story, a tale of love, unity, and defiance, would echo forever. Beneath Kravos's twin moons, Kael, Seraphine, and Veyra stand united, their hearts entwined, their love igniting a new dawn. From a stranded pilot, Kael became a legend, binding Earth and Kravos in eternal peace. We adore this tale for celebrating love's power across boundaries. What do you think? Would you fight for a love among the stars? Thank you for watching. Like, sub, comment, share. Your support fuels X-Aurel to craft even greater stories.